I've got to say, we are so excited about this new album coming out. We're already loving these singles that you guys have released. So I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about how you guys feel about being able to drop your 15th album. Now it's about to come out.
Oh, well, we're really happy to be able to get it out there, first of all. And the fact that it's our 15th is something that's pretty crazy to think about if we actually stop and take a minute to think about that and how many. That's like a really large number of albums, obviously, and we've had a long career, longer than we ever could have anticipated. So, yeah, we're really excited to get it out there, and obviously we wish a tour could accompany it, but that's going to have to wait for the foreseeable future. But we're happy to at least be releasing a record this year. So can't wait for everybody to check it out.
I was going to ask that actually about your longevity, because I still remember discovering you guys, and I'm showing my age here. I'm pretty sure it was when a friend passed me a cassette at high school and said, you've got to have a listen to these guys. Back then, did you guys know or realize that you would still be going so strong 15 albums later?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, if you look at where things were when we started, you know, we got the band together in 1988. So at that point, even the longest running traditional heavy metal bands were barely 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like, so to anticipate something that was going to last, 3 decades plus and have this many albums, we never could have imagined it. Even after our third or fourth album, we still were really thinking that, at some point things would wind down. I mean, you don't really look that far in the future, because when you're going yourself, why think about it all coming to an end? You just want to keep it going, and that's really what we've done. We haven't thought too far in advance. We just focus on the album we're working on, try to make it the best album we can, and do as much touring as we can, and one thing leads to another, and here we are 30-some years later. So, yeah, we couldn't have anticipated it, but we're obviously very happy about it and very grateful to our fans for making it possible.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's kind of a secret to that longevity? Because I've been a music journalist now for over 25 years, and I see bands come and go so quickly these days. Do you feel that there's a secret to that longevity for you guys?
Well, I mean, first of all, we can't discount how important just being lucky is, and being at the right place at the right time and releasing things at the right moment. It's so we've had some lucky breaks, several. I'm sure I could sit down and think of a bunch of things where timing was a big part, and so you can't really replace that luck factor. I know a bunch of great bands that didn't quite have the timing we did, that didn't end up going as far as us, but anyway, beyond that, the things that we've done, we've tried to take advantage of the opportunities we've been given by being consistent. And I think especially in a kind of music like metal, any of the subgenres, us being death metal obviously, but in metal, I think as a fan of metal myself, obviously, I've always liked the bands that were very consistent with both their imagery and their style, the way they continue to put albums out on a regular basis. Bands like Iron Maiden, Slayer, bands like that were very consistent and never really went away for a long period of time. They were always just constantly out there grinding it out, and they were always true to their original mission as a band. So we looked up to bands like that, and we've tried to be equally consistent, and I think that has to help. And so if you get lucky and stay consistent, I think those are two pretty key things.
Yeah, definitely. And you say about staying consistent. I know that you've said with this album you tried to do the writing process the same way as what you've always done. How difficult was that in the middle of a pandemic, though, with lockdowns and restrictions and everything?
Mm-hmm. Well, the actual writing of the music was pretty much done before the pandemic began, or at least before it became a really big issue in the U.S., which would have been, about halfway through March last year.
Yep.
And we were pretty much done with the writing of the music. The lyrics were yet to be written. And so the way we were writing was pretty similar to how we've been doing it the past few years, which is, I'll write my songs at home alone and make demos and then show the demos to the rest of the guys. And Eric did the same thing. And then Rob likes to go up to the room and work with Paul, our drummer. They work together, to put his songs together. And so the writing was pretty similar. Things definitely were different for the recording, though. That's where the pandemic impacted us most immediately, was with the recording, because I live on the other side of the country these days. Those guys live in Florida, I live in Oregon, and under normal circumstances, flying down there to work with them is not an issue, but it became an issue, and I ended up having to record in my home studio, because our recording session was in April, May, and June, and all of those, during that time, the lockdowns were taking place all throughout the country, so and travel just wouldn't have been safe at that time.
Yeah.
So that was the big impact that it had on our album, but not the writing so much.
Yeah. Did that feel strange for you, recording in a home studio rather than being there with the boys, or did it actually make it more relaxing in a sense?
I mean, in some ways it's relaxing, because if you're having trouble with a particular song or you're just not feeling it, you can take a break for as long as you want, and you know that you're not on the clock money-wise.
Yeah.
When in the studio, you're paying by the hour or by the day or whatever it is, and you really have to get it done on time. Every minute wasted is money wasted. But at home, with your home studio, you can kind of take a little bit more time. So I was able to do that, but I absolutely would have preferred to be there with the rest of the guys, because not just for my bass tracking, for the bass guitar tracking, but also just to sort of be there to give input when they were working on the songs that I'd written. When the drums were being recorded for the songs I'd written, or the guitar being recorded, or the vocals, I'd like to be there, and I normally am, just to kind of give advice on what I wanted things to sound like. Fortunately, the demos I made were pretty descriptive, I guess, because everything turned out really just the way I wanted it to anyhow. And of course, we were in touch by phone and text and everything throughout the process, but it's not the same as being down there with everybody else. I can record at home. I've done it with side projects, and it's fine for that sort of thing. And some bands actually, pandemic aside, they just like to record in different studios. It's easier for them, for whatever reason, logistically. But for us with Cannibal, we've always liked to sort of be at the same studio and work together throughout the process, So next time for sure. This was obviously a very unusual situation, and things turned out great, but it's not the way we would have normally done it.
Definitely
not.
Yeah. And you mentioned there having Eric on board for the writing process this time as well. Of course, you've worked with Eric as producer before. What was it like welcoming him into the fold as a guitarist, but also as a songwriter as well?
It was very smooth, and I think, I've mentioned this a few other times in some of the other interviews I've done, but it's kind of like he was already part of the family, and he just took on some additional roles within the family. So It didn't feel, on a personal level, it felt like the most natural thing ever. As far as, a functional level or whatever, well, he's an amazing guitar player, as everyone knows. He has a history in death metal as long as ours, throughout, from Ripping Corpse to Morbid Angel and Hate Eternal. He's done so much and been doing it just as long as we have. So he brought an immense amount of skills to the table. He's an amazing producer, and then this amazing guitar, and a super hard worker, and also a great songwriter. When you look at what he does with Hate Eternal, he's producing that band and then writing a good portion of the material, and he sings on it and plays both rhythm and lead guitar. So he can do a lot. And for him to, for example, he produced Violence Unimagined, and he wrote 3 songs. and played a whole bunch of the guitar on the record as well. So he's just a really hard worker, and he brought that into the fold. And we've always worked hard, but having someone like that around, it kind of inspires you to work that much harder.
Definitely, yeah. And talking of working hard, I understand that you guys really pushed yourself this time with this album, especially technically and especially with Paul. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about why it felt like you guys were pushed so hard this time, especially Paul.
Well, I think probably some of that has to do with Eric joining, and Eric has been, like I said, he's been playing for years and years and played in the bands I mentioned, and he's used to, pretty much being able to write whatever he likes, on drums and make it happen. So that was a challenge for Paul, for sure, because some of the stuff that Paul ended up learning how to play for this record and recording, are things that I would say are fairly far out of his comfort zone. Like Ritual Annihilation is probably the fastest blast beats Paul's done that have been recorded by us. And then some of the drum fills in Condemnation Contagion, these are both songs Eric wrote. Just listening to those drum fills, I was like, wow, this is some stuff Paul's never done before. So he definitely stepped it up in large part, I would say, because of Eric joining, but also Rob and I, when we write songs, we're not taking it easy on the drum parts either. And we've noticed Paul over the past decade or so really taking that much more of an interest in practicing than he even did earlier in his career. Just he's really focused in on it. And so we try to push him a little bit too, but I'd say out of the three of us who write the music, most of the music, it would be Eric that had pushed Paul the most on this one.
Yeah.
And you can hear it. I think it's a great thing, for a drummer to be some years into his career and be on his 15th album and to be doing some of the hardest stuff he's ever done on that album. It's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. How do you kind of be there for a band member when you know that they're really being pushed like that? Because we know with sport, if there's a player who has to go out and do something special in a game, his teammates will all be around him and kind of gently pushing him without making it seem too obvious. How do you as bandmates and friends push Paul like that?
Well, I would say this question would be best for Eric to answer, because he's the producer, so he's the one getting the performances out of us when we're recording. But in general, you do try to write things that if you're pushing, you don't write something that's completely unrealistic, because that can be, confidence destroying. If you hand somebody something that is just like maybe 75% beyond what they've normally done, you know what I mean? So we all, me and Rob especially, of course, but now Eric too, and Eric knows from having worked with us on 4 previous albums as producer, he knows what Paul's style is. So we work to, you push against the boundaries or the limits, but not so far that it's going to just end up, not working out. And, when someone is pushed to do something that's really close and that they definitely can do with a bit of practice, it feels so good when you get that down. I know that as for my instrument, and I'm sure the guitar players have felt that way too. Everybody ends up with something that's challenging, where it's almost out of reach, but with some practice you get it. And once you get it, then you've improved, because you're playing something that you couldn't have played a few months before. So as long as you don't, set the goals too lofty a goal and make things a bit more reasonable in terms of improvement, everybody ends up feeling a sense of accomplishment when they can do it. Yeah. So that's the key, I think, is to just really try and push without it being unrealistic.
Definitely. Well, mate, the result has been an album that we cannot wait to hear, and I could talk to you all day because I've admired your work for so many years, but I know we are running out of time. So I guess to finish up, is there anything you would like to say to your Aussie fans out there before they go out and grab the album on the 16th?
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for the support, and hopefully we get down to there to see you guys again soon. It's been a while, and of course things are uncertain right now due to the pandemic, but we're really looking forward to coming back down and playing for you all as soon as it's possible. So let's hope maybe next year or at latest 2023 we'll be back down to see you all. And until then, stay safe and healthy, and thanks so much for listening to us.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much for chatting to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. You stay safe, and hopefully we do get to see you soon.
Yes, thanks so much for the interview, man, and yeah, hope to see you soon.
Definitely, mate. All right, I'll let you go. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too, man.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.